Oh, Yomelis, welcome to the Naked Mennonite, the podcast for all of Menno Simons's black sheep, you might say. I, of course, am your host, Stephen Harder. I'm sure if you know me, you must know my parents, Diedrich and Helena Harder from Gruntal. And this is the podcast for, the folks who, have the Mennonite background, but maybe don't feel like they totally fit in with your standard Manitoba Mennonite, you might say. And I started up a conversation last week with a couple of gentlemen here on the party line, and I've got them on the line right now, Scott and Mat Pilgrim. And believe it or not, they are actually husbands to each other. So it's been very interesting just to hear, a little bit about their journey. I know last week we heard from Matt, and he explained the hardships that came with knowing that he was gay at a very young age. And Scott, I'm just curious, how did your journey compare and differ from that of Matt?
Um, well, it's fairly different, following a similar path, but still fairly different. Um, I don't know, I wouldn't say that it's something that I knew or even was aware of in my younger years at all. It more so came to light in my adulthood. I mean, many years of knowing that I was very different than everybody else that I was around, but no clue what that was or what exactly was going on until it kind of, I don't know what revealed itself, I don't know, in my adulthood. So that it's kind of came about, again, similar to Matt, in that came out at 35, and we got together almost right away, which would go against what most people would advise doing at that point. However, we've been together now almost 10 years and haven't looked back.
Huh.
So, as far as family goes, I mean, my family has been very supportive the whole time. So that's made life a lot easier. Yeah, she was previously married to a woman with 2 kids who are now basically adults. They're 18 and 20, 17 and 20, going to be 18 and 21. But yeah, so it's that was a lot easier to navigate based on family being supportive and so on.
So you're saying that they survived?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Because I hear that once parents divorce, then their kids may not survive that.
Well, I don't know how to comment to that. No, we've been very fortunate, just with how we've been able to work with things. My ex-wife and I are still very close, very good friends, and we've co-parented the whole time, and our kids are now coming into being young adults and are very well-adjusted individuals. So can't really complain about that. But yeah.
So you, grew up feeling different, and yet you wouldn't have identified that as, growing up feel like repressing, gay feelings. Then is that what I'm understanding here?
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
interesting.
Yeah.
And so then, okay, so then you're following, the course, the path that seems right to you, and that includes getting married and having some kids. And then, uh, when you're an adult, a catalyst comes about and tells you that something isn't right here.
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of really break down the process of how things kind of came to be. It was, I don't know, it was just over time things kind of started to spark, I guess, or things kind of kind of realizations of kind of what things have always been that didn't fit in, or say some of the things that I just thought was normal for everybody was not normal for everybody.
Oh, really?
So
You mean you didn't get the handbook saying, yes, this is normal? No, that isn't normal?
no, I was not there that day when they handed those out.
Okay. Me neither, but I understand that
Here it's
some
out
people
there.
just know what normal is.
Yeah,
And
I know.
others of us just need to figure it out.
No, normal is a heavy word anyways, which I think it doesn't. It's a setting on a dryer. That's pretty much what it applies to. But no, I don't know, and I can't pinpoint like this moment. Wasn't like this big revelation moment. I think there was things kind of mentally shifted to realizing of kind of uncertainty of things, and it's like, well, starting to wonder, well, am I gay? To that realization where knowing that that was the case, and then the panic of, well, what do I do now with this? Being married with kids and not unhappy, but knowing that something needed to change, as it were. Because the current status quo was not going to work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then how did it sounds like, your wife at the time, she didn't respond badly. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very supportive, actually.
Supportive. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about your two kids? Like, what was their life looking like during, or what? Yeah. How did this impact their life?
Well, I mean, and their reaction to it was more so a reaction to, parents separating, but for them to adjust to dad being gay was not really a big issue per se. That was, I mean, they were very familiar with what that was at that point. We had friends that were gay at that were around, and our boys knew, and whatever. It wasn't like this was a whole new thing to have to also try to explain to them and whatever, work our way through. We worked our way through, but that was not a difficult thing for our boys to kind of adapt to, as it were. I think especially that the difference there too was that me and Matt got together fairly quickly, so, and then he was in the picture, so they could see that it's was not like this crazy world necessarily. It was just basically just another means of being at home and be a different kind of normal.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So then, um, so then you two are getting together, and so what, Trace? Because I think I got a pretty clear idea of the importance of faith that was at work in Matt's life. Like, how did your experience with the Mennonite faith uh, differ, contrast to his experience? Was it like, I guess it wasn't something you needed to dig into as hard, just because it wasn't something that you wasn't a felt need for you. Is that fair to say?
Well, it wasn't as at the forefront of things for me as it was for him to start off with. So, I mean, I grew up going to church and whatever, and kind of ascribed to the Christian teachings to a point, but all through my life, I've always kind of been in and out of Christianity as far as what I could really get a grasp of, or what I could get on board with or ascribe to, or whatever the wording is on that. Um, and I don't I specifically remember being at a church service, and the message at the time was about sexuality, and there was I think was about, well, specifically about, well, it was about sexuality, but then it was, part of it was digging into homosexuality and so on. And I distinctly remember, and I can't remember specifically things that were said or specific things, but I think it was just by the end of that service, I knew that this was no longer for me. It was just not something that, whether it be the messaging or whether it be the approach or whether, I don't know exactly what it was, but that was kind of the last, not, because it was not like, it wasn't even a dramatic thing. It was simply at that point, I knew that was no longer what I could follow.
And was that pre-35 or post-35?
Pre.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it was kind of in amongst the lead up to my coming out process.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then since then, it's, whereas Matt's been much more of a seeker and wanting to have something to, I don't know what the wording is even. I can't think of the wording is, but have something to basically to follow or to believe in. And for me, that's been much less of a need. So when people ask kind of, well, how, like, what would you say you believe now? And I don't have, for me, it's just a very simple, my belief is simply to love others. And that's essentially, I believe in love. Regardless.
Well, I think Christians do too, so I've heard.
Well, they say they do.
Oh, that's maybe a little bit true there. Interesting.
No, it's the phrasing that I always talk about is when you get because the phrase you'll often get from people is, I love you, but, and the love you, but is, if there's a but attached to it, it's like you totally negate the first part. That's why for me it's just love, end of sentence.
Yeah. Now I think I also want to, I think Scott agrees with me here on this. This isn't a categorical a statement that where we say, oh, Christians say they love, but they don't. We have some very close Christian friends in our acquaintance that exemplify and display the love that what they would call the love of Christ, and it's. I've come to very much appreciate them and their faith for what it is. We've had some very candid conversations with them where we just both say, you know what, we're so excited that you are displaying the love of Christ in your life in an accurate and loving way. And while we want to reflect that love as well, the following of the faith is not for us. And it's like I didn't say this earlier, and so the part that where Scott and I differentiate when it comes to our faith is Scott's focus is exactly as he says. It's love. It's love for one another, love for for people, and so forth. While I said that it's love, that's more a byproduct of my faith, which is paganism, and I would say that I follow the pagan faith, which is essentially there's a lot of love there. It's love for yourself. It's a love for nature. It's a love for all things that live and breathe, and a love for the gods and goddesses. It's and the prime there and the thing that drew me most strongly toward paganism was there aren't any rules telling me how to live. The cardinal, it's not even a rule, it's more so a philosophy, is in all that you do, whatever you do, just don't hurt. Do whatever you want, just don't hurt others. As long as you harm none, do whatever you want to do.
Interesting. So, and that's what that's that's what fills that faith need for for you in your life? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, very much so. Like on our home, we have a home now, a plot of land, 5 acres, and there's lots of forest and there's a swamp section and everything. Lots of different areas of nature that I get to be in. But in the middle of a forested area, I've created a sacred grove, a plot of land that I have designated as holy or sacred or set aside specifically for the purpose of meditation, of worship, of ritual, and whatever it is that you want to do. But it's not for regular. I've got a fire pit in the middle, and you don't do wiener roasts out of this fire pit. That's a place to gaze into the flames and meditate. It's a place to offer sacrifice for whatever it is that you want to do for ritual. It's a recognition of the life that surrounds us and the life that we live in, and recognition of those that live around us and that we need to be living in harmony with. And so that has largely come to be also a part of my identity. Now, I'm not just gay Matt. I'm also pagan Matt. I'm also Dungeon Master Matt for Dungeons and Dragons. You know.
Oh, that kind of dungeon. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what you got going on the property. Scott, is there anything I need to know about what's going on the property there?
You're good.
Are you here? Are you free to speak your mind?
Yeah. Oh yes.
50 Shades of Matt. Not that I know anything about that, because I don't. I know nothing about that. I just read memes about it. So so it sounds like, Scott, your relationship with your family, that it's been kind of steady, right? Like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm not hearing that it was cataclysmic disaster on your side, that things were pretty amicable, and you've continued to grow and adapt. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, much less dramatic.
Okay. So then, Matt, what's the dramatic status for you and your relationship with your kids and your ex-wife? Is it still cold and off, or?
Oh no, we have definitely rekindled a friendship there. After about 7 years after my coming out, then she reached out to me and just said, "Hey, I think that you should be a part of the kids' life." So I have been. Get to see them on a regular basis. Recently, we've even had them over for Christmas, and not just the kids, but also my ex as well. And the relationship there is beginning to mend. Well, I wouldn't say mend. We're creating something new. And I'm really, I think that it's becoming a very beautiful thing. And I'm very thankful for how things have turned out. I think that the exactly like we described, or as we decided at the beginning, I needed that absence to be able to figure out who I was, because I was very, very much in a place of questioning everything at that time when I came out, and didn't have enough of me to offer to my kids to be able to be a supportive parent for them. And now that I am confident in who I am and where I am in my life and in my faith, I can also be there for them, and support them in their growth and development, and in the different ways that they love as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. Is there any part of either of your journeys that you would do differently? I know it's always a weird question to ask, because if you didn't have your journey, you wouldn't be where you are. So but if you could go and tweak something, if you could be God and just like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to tighten this one screw here a little bit, what would that adjustment be?
I don't know if I do anything differently. I mean, in a perfect world, say I would have been able to kind of have the realization earlier that life could have been taken a different course. There could have been less people, say, affected by it per se. But at the same time, I mean, I have no regrets. I don't know, in the time that I've had, I don't know that I would have done things differently, to be honest.
I kind of echo that. I mean, I would have loved to have been able to come out immediately after college. I think that would have been a good time to do so. Come home from Bible college and you go, you know what? I spent 4.5 years seeking after this, and it's just not for me. And instead of deluding myself for the next 9 more years or whatever it was, just been honest with myself at that point. But having said that, I also, having made that change, never would have had my kids, and I think they become such wonderful people, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. So, like, I think the only thing I would have done differently, if I knew then what I know now, is I think I would have come out differently, instead of being such doing it so. Like this was something I had been struggling with for 28 years, from the time I was 7 years old till I was 35. It's 28 years of time where I've had the opportunity to come to terms with it. So for me, once I made that decision, it was there, done. I'm now out, and this is my life. But that was very jarring for those others in my life, especially for those that who fell from my shadow game, like and. Yeah, I would have liked to have done my coming out a little more considerate of other people's feelings and their reactions. Given my immediate family, my wife at the time and my kids, time to reflect on that and understand it, instead of just uprooting my life and theirs. I think that's one thing I would have done differently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would say the same probably, because like you said, it's the, like, going through that process, you're kind of on that journey yourself until that point of coming out, but you forget that everyone else hasn't been included in that journey until that point. So they're playing catch up, and in the meantime, life's just been disrupted. So yeah, I would say the same. It's like I would have. My one regret is that I didn't allow my ex-wife to come along or to give her the opportunity to work it through with me up to that point. That's what I would have read. But again, when I look at everything else, even the timing of everything, knowing that the timing was when it was supposed to happen for me. As much as I like to say, like, I would have liked to have been done that years earlier, so whatever. But in the timing of me doing it, the people around me were prepared to deal with it. Whereas as much as 5 years earlier, they wouldn't have known how to even handle that or deal with it, or kind of piece that together for themselves as far as how that they can reconcile that for themselves. So yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. And if someone is, listening in on the party line now, who is in that place of fear or uh, uncertainty or not knowing, maybe they feel like they've got a lot to lose by listening to this wondering in their heads. Maybe they're struggling, and they're getting tired of that struggle. Like, what kind of advice would you give to a young person like that?
Well, it's hard because everybody's scenario is different. Everybody's life is different. My encouragement mostly to people is to find somebody you can talk to, that, whether that be a family member, whether that be a friend, whether that be a counselor of some kind, to work your way through that sooner rather than later.
Would you say, find a pastor to help you work through that?
Depends what your comfort level with your pastor is, and kind of what the teachings of your church are, and any number of things. There may or may not be, they may or not be the best option, but at the same time, it depends on so many factors. You want somebody you are comfortable with.
I can think of at least two pastors in my life where I would say absolutely. These are people who would be able to come alongside you in a loving and accepting manner, and bring you through to the other side, with all the love that their faith has to offer, without damaging your journey. And I think those are the types of people that we need in our life now. It doesn't have to be a pastor. I've also been to some counselors, professionals who did more damage than good in my life. So, yeah. And ultimately, my recommendation is find someone who is at least been on the journey that you're on. Find someone who is, like one of my friends likes to call it, a part of the tribe, who is gone on the journey, who is gay, who is lesbian, who is whatever journey you're on, transgender, whatever it is, who's been on that journey and can say, okay, so this was my journey, and you can talk to me openly and candidly about yours, and we can come alongside you and be with you on yours. Not so much as a leader or someone to tell you what to do, but just a sounding board for your thoughts. Because a lot of times, all you need is just to be able to say the words in your head to somebody else, and then things become clearer.
It's true.
Interesting. So, I'm curious. Like how does your Mennonite identity now compare to the one of your youth? Like, do you associate with that word whatsoever? Is that still a part of your life, or is it absolutely gone? Like, what does being Mennonite mean to you now?
For me, it's part of my background. So it's not something like I don't say that I'm Mennonite. It's one half of my family is Mennonite, in that it's a lineage thing, essentially, culture, I guess, or whatever it is. But it's not like, it doesn't affect, like, Mennonite isn't part of my day-to-day life or my ideology or my faith, anything. It's not really a part of me, as it were, other than it's in my history and my upbringing, essentially.
For me, very much the problem with Mennonites is that it's not one thing. If it was just a faith, I could say no, absolutely, I'm not Mennonite anymore. But it's not just a faith; it's a culture as well. So for me, much like Scott said, when I talk about Mennonite, I say I grew up Mennonite. I grew up in a Mennonite culture. I grew up in a Mennonite household. For the place of Mennonite now in my life, I love Zummerborscht, and other Mennonite foods. That is about as Mennonite as it gets for me. If I if I ever want to turn the flame of passion off in our household, all I have to do is talk with a Mennonite accent, and that is the end of it.
Okay, so then we're pretty safe here then.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be, getting involved in any phone hanky-panky here.
Not today,
You're
sir.
safe.
Not today.
What was I going to say now? Okay, so then like Pilgrim, that doesn't sound like a very Mennonite name. Is that do I call it a maiden name for one of you, or?
No, no. When we got married, we made the conscious decision to, instead of either of us taking each other's last name or both keeping our last name, we jointly came up with a completely different last name, kind of as a reset for ourselves. So it's not a maiden name. It's not a name that traces back through our lineage at all. And it's interesting the amount of times people ask me if I'm related to some pilgrim somewhere. It's like, nope, I can tell you right now I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was, for us, it was just a matter of, it was, like I said, it was a reset for us, and more of a symbolic gesture than anything.
Yeah, and we had decided that we wanted a name that still meant something to us. I was a wall, Scott was a plet. We had come up with all sorts of different combinations thereof: wall, plet, plet, wall, wallet. Didn't kind of. We didn't want any of that. I certainly didn't want to be a plet. It sounds kind of like wet manure hitting concrete. Plet, you know. But we wanted something that still meant something to us. So we came up with the idea that both of us have been on a pilgrimage, on a journey to find each other, and now we have, and we are pilgrims on the same journey together, seeking for the next thing. So that was it. We are pilgrims, and that's who we are.
That's very appropriate then. Sounds like it's steeped in meaning rather than, taking your husband's last name because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Yomelis. Well, I think my hymn sing program is about to begin in a little bit here, so we should probably wrap this up. But thank you so much, Scott and Matt, for just sharing your journey with me, your pilgrimage with me, if you will, a little bit here. That is very enlightening to me. And now I can say that I've actually spoken to two gay people. And who knows, maybe there's a third one down the road for me. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. And until next time, this is Stephen Harder reminding you that underneath our Sunday best, we're all naked. We will see you next time.